When you take a look at my screen, what we are looking at here is the current situation that a lot of organizations are running into. You have a situation where there are multiple projects that are all impacting the same targeted audience, the same employees and managers and executives within that organization. Sometimes you have situations where 5 projects might be impacting the same audience. Sometimes it's 10 or 11 or 12, 15, even 20 or more. But that's not really the only issue. The issue is that a lot of times these projects are all using a siloed approach. Employees are getting communication from the different projects sometimes at the same time. They've been asked to attend training sometimes around the same time. And what this actually leads to is people across organizations start to disengage from the communications that a lot of these projects are sending out. People feel fatigue, and people experience a sense of change saturation. You also have situations where messaging from one project might be conflicting with messaging from another project. You also have situations where schedules are conflicting, where you're asking people to join a meeting, another project is asking the same people to join another meeting at the same time. Overall, what we see is this increases a level of resistance across organizations where people become resistant to change. And so, how do you address this situation? First of all, let us quickly go over how individuals transition through change. One of the first stages is awareness. And when I say awareness, I don't mean sending out a long email communication. No, you want to send a communication that lists out the benefits. What are the next steps? Why is this happening now? A lot of times people think about, why didn't this change happen 5 years ago? Or why is it not happening 5 years from now? Why is it happening now? Is often a question that comes up. So by providing awareness, you want to ensure that you are addressing the key components, the driving factors behind this change. Another one is building receptiveness or desire for the change. And here you want to aim to communicate with them. With them is WIIFM, which really stands for what's in it for me. It is standard human behavior to sometimes subconsciously, other times they vocalize it where they say, what's in it for me? To help build receptiveness to the change, it also helps to conduct roadshows, town halls, meetings, and sometimes even do one-on-one. And when communicating or interacting with people to go over the change, you want to ensure that you personalize the change for each target audience. For example, if you are discussing with impacted sales individuals, you want to integrate their language when communicating what is changing. If you're engaging with IT stakeholders and impacted users, you want to integrate technical terms that they relate to. If you're discussing with marketing, make sure you use marketing language to describe the change. What about operations? A similar thing. The bottom line here is, in order to increase receptiveness to the change, you want to ensure you are using a personalized approach. The next step is providing knowledge. This is where you do training. You conduct briefing sessions where you walk through at a high level what is changing. You deliver office hours and invite people to join support calls if they're running into knowledge issues or they need help. You also want to provide coaching. The next stage is helping people build proficiency. So doing training is great, but people also need the time to practice. So you want to do follow-ups as well as continue office hours or support calls. Office hours really is just 30 minutes, 1 hour. Anyone can join to ask questions or to seek help. And then when they have received help, they can jump off the call. The change management and project team will remain on the call the entire time. That way, any impacted users will have the opportunity during that 30 minutes or 60 minutes to hop on and off the calls. I normally recommend having at least one call a week when you're getting close to go live as well as after go live. In some cases, I've done 2 or 3 support calls a week. It really based on the number of impacted users and the complexity of the change. And then the last stage is helping people reinforce what they have learned. You want to track KPIs. You want to track how people are adopting and using the new solution. You want to continue to follow up with people, provide additional training if needed, provide additional coaching, continue to measure success, and pivot as needed. The next stage really goes over our repeatable change management framework. So the framework that we use and that I recommend is what I just said, a repeatable 360-degree change management framework. It is broken into 4 phases. And the first phase is really where you do a lot of your assessments. You are ramping up on a project, meeting with stakeholders and project teams to gather information. You're doing your readiness assessments to identify how impacted users are ready for the change. You are conducting change risk assessments to identify how the organization as a whole is ready for change. What is the culture within the organization? Is it an organization or a department that is receptive to change? The way to know that is to conduct a readiness and change risk assessment. Conducting a stakeholder analysis to really identify who are the key stakeholders, which department or groups are they part of, and what makes them stakeholders. As part of your stakeholder assessment, you also want to identify what is their receptiveness to the change. Down here, where we have impact, is really where you conduct your detailed change impact assessment, where you identify the level of impact per the different groups. Is it high? Is it low? Is it medium? You want to conduct all of those assessments. Readiness for go live is also another one here. So this is slightly different from this readiness and risk here. Communication needs. Not every impacted user will need the same level of communication. So you want to identify that. Similarly to training, you want to identify for the different groups and individuals, what are the different levels of training needed. You also want to do a similar thing for change networks. Some departments might be more resistant to change. And so for those departments, you need a more robust change network. For other departments that are impacted, they might be very receptive to change, in which case you don't really need a big network. So you want to make sure you do your change network assessment. Resistance to change is also another one you are looking at and you are assessing as part of your assessment phase. The next one is to, based on output that come about from your assessment, you want to develop a robust change management strategic playbook that really outlines your strategies for conducting communications, training, stakeholder engagement, managing resistance, standing up your change champion network. All of those are your strategies. Strategies is really you saying, we are going to do this. The plan is what provides step-by-step details as to how you are going to do something. For example, you might say, as part of our communications, we are going to use a hybrid communication strategy, meaning that we are going to have leadership cascade communication down, and we are going to cascade communication up. That's a hybrid communication strategy. The plan provides the step-by-step details as to how that strategy will be implemented. I'm emphasizing this to ensure that you understand the strategic playbook is different from the plan, and both components are needed. The playbook and the individual plan. So there's going to be a communication plan, there's going to be a training plan, there's going to be a resistance management plan, there's going to be a sponsor support plan. Those are just examples of individual plans that are needed, but your strategic playbook is an all-in-one that contains all of your strategies. And then the implement phase is where you deliver readiness, communication, you manage your stakeholders, you deliver roadshows and meetings and engagements, you deliver training, you manage your resistance, and you also launch and you support your champion network. And then after go live, which is cut over, you want to ensure you do office hours, support calls, you send out, we've gone live communications, but that's not all. You want to ensure that for weeks after go live, you continue to send out post go live support communications. One of those can be to share FAQs. Hey everyone, we have based on the questions that people have been asking over the last week, we are communicating a list of FAQs. That's just an example of a post go live communication. You want to be following up with people, tracking change adoption. If people are running into knowledge issues, you can provide additional training. You also want to be documenting lessons learned, and most importantly, helping to support normalizing the new behaviors. As part of your change management consulting deliverable, this slide is outlining some of the key things. The change assessments that I mentioned, communications, engagement, interactive engagement is also very important. People often ask me, hey Obi, what really is the difference between communications and interactive engagement? And my response really is, interactive engagement is the interactive channel for communicating things, communicating a change. It gives people the ability to ask you questions. It gives you the ability for people to provide you with concerns or feedback. Change playbooks is another one that I mentioned, right? The playbook itself and also the individual plans. Providing training and briefings is really where you educate people and help them develop proficiency. Tracking and reinforcing new behaviors. These are all components that you want to implement into your change management consulting deliverables. Another thing to keep in mind when delivering organizational change management consulting is it helps to use a roadmap. Leadership, stakeholders, and even impacted individuals are interested in seeing the plan, and the plan as in what is the plan of action? What is the roadmap? Sometimes you will hear people talking about the plan, and you might be confused that they're talking about the detailed communications plan, training plan, engagement plan, but really they are talking about the holistic picture. Some plans, or rather some roadmap, can be detailed depending on your audience. Other roadmaps should be more high level, especially if you are going to be presenting to leadership. Here's an example. This roadmap here is broken into multiple swim lanes: assess, stage, develop, deploy when the change is rolled out. Pilot, some projects, they implement a pilot, and then normalize and exit, right? So there are activities, and I'm going to go through this very quickly because there are other roadmaps that I want to share with you. But the goal of me presenting this slide is just to show you holistically what a detailed end-to-end, everything in one slide roadmap can look like. Even though this is detailed, there's been a lot of times where leaders have asked me for this level of detailed all-in-one plan. They might print it out, keep it in front of them. That way they can easily make reference to when things are landing. Here is another one that has different colors for when the activities are landing. Similarly, this is broken into different swim lanes, but the color coding, for example, the amber bars, they signify normalization activities. The dark blue bars, they signify assessment, solutioning, and planning activities. Okay. And then here is another one. This one is a little bit more at a high level. You notice it only has 16 things, 16 rows on it. And then here's another one without the Gantt view. And then here is another one that shows things in a different component. So for example, at the very top, you have the timeline. And then here is the change management roadmap that includes key change management activities. Here is when activities are being delivered. And then down here, if your organization is implementing ADKAR, you can also reflect that here. And then there is one more here that also presents things from a high level perspective. And we have all of these available to you for free. You can message us and we'll be more than happy to share this with you. Okay.